What's up, everybody? I'm Alan Seslowsky, and thanks for tuning back into Roster Watch. Fantasy players are relying heavily on team beat reporters for information this season. Those reporters who are well-connected and have boots on the ground are going to be one of the keys to solving the fantasy football puzzle in 2020. On Roster Watch podcast number 276, Roster Watch co-founder Alex Dunlap talked to one of the best beat reporters in the industry, DP Sidhu, who covers the Houston Texans. These are some of the key takeaways from that podcast. The first player I want to talk to you about is Will Fuller. Now, it's not breaking news that Will Fuller has been an injury headache for the last few years. We also know that Fuller is one of the few wide receivers who has week-winning upside all by himself, even on modest volume. Paired with Deshaun Watson as his QB, a healthy Will Fuller is a top 12 wide receiver on any given week. Fuller's 2019 ADP of the late fourth round was fair, but it did not bake in the proper injury risk. In 2020, Fuller is routinely going in the late 6th round or early 7th round, which does account for some of the risk associated with Fuller. Now, Fuller is going to remain an injury risk until we see him play all 16 games, but in 2020, you're not paying a premium price for it. DP Sidhu suggested that Fuller's injuries may have been more bad luck, citing that he was not injured during his time at Notre Dame. The next player we're going to talk about is Randall Cobb, the wide receiver on the Houston Texans. In PPR leagues, Randall Cobb has been a useful fantasy player for years. During his peak years at Green Bay, Cobb was often a top 36 overall fantasy player. RosterWatch co-founder Alex Dunlap pointed out that even though Cobb is more of a role player nowadays, he was targeted 83 times in the Dallas Cowboys offense in 2019. Fantasy players who picked up Cobb off the waiver wire late last year for their playoff push were rewarded with 18 PPR points per week from weeks 10 through 12. The appeal of Cobb is that he's a low-cost wide receiver who profiles differently from the other key wide receivers on the team. Cobb projects to work in the slot, and the team does not have an established tight end who will demand targets. If you drafted using a robust RB strategy and looking for a low-cost PPR points, Cobb is an excellent pick very late in your draft. A quick reminder that the 2020 RosterWatch Ultimate Draft Cheat Sheet is available now at RosterWatch.com. The revolutionary cheat sheet that changed fantasy football forever is back, only at RosterWatch.com. The RosterWatch Ultimate Draft Cheat Sheet, all you need to do is follow 3 simple rules. That's it. Couldn't be any easier, and an expert quality fantasy football draft is guaranteed. The RosterWatch Ultimate Draft Cheat Sheet, only at RosterWatch.com. The last player we're going to talk about on this video today is David Johnson, the running back on the Houston Texans. The Texans offense is going to look very different in 2020 than it did last year. Longtime superstar wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins was traded, and David Johnson is now on the team. David Johnson is one of those running backs that gets drafted in the top 50 picks that most fantasy players do not feel good about. There's been no worse fantasy investment than David Johnson over the last 3 years. He cost you a first-round pick in 2017, 18, and 19, and he did not deliver. RosterWatch co-founder Alex Dunlap pointed out that David Johnson was productive last year in the first 6 weeks of 2019, averaging over 20 PPR fantasy points per game. Dunlap did admit, though, that David Johnson did not look right after he returned from his injury. On that same podcast, DP Sidhu, the Houston Texans beat writer, suggested that David Johnson is healthy now, and he's been practicing every day, rotating on first-team reps with Duke Johnson. RosterWatch concedes that David Johnson is a hold-your-nose-when-you-click draft button, but he represents one of the last running backs with a certain starting role in the beginning of the season. If you drafted wide receivers early or a premium tight end or even Lamar or Mahomes and went for a premium QB, David Johnson is a defensible pick for your second running back. Okay, Roster Watch Nation, that's it for today. Remember to like and subscribe to get notifications when we go live, and leave us a comment in the video. We will comment back. Until next time, goodbye.